Hugh Freeze has Auburn in contention for one of the top tackles in the country, but you should be used to this already. Auburn is killing recruiting. Welcome on into the Auburn Express, powered by the Rapport. I'm your host, Mike G, and thank you so much for making us your first listeners every day. Joining me, as he does every single week, is my good friend Kyle Rush from the barn to talk a little Auburn football and a little Auburn recruiting. On today's show, we're going to talk about one of the top tackles in the portal making a visit to Auburn and what Auburn's hoping to do on that offensive line in terms of recruiting. Let's start at the top, Kyle. Emmanuel Ianacho is set to visit the Plains. Did I get his name right?
Yeah, man. They call him Manny. Manny Ianacho. Yeah.
Manny Ianacho is set. He is one of the top 5 tackles in the entire country, set to visit the Plains. Auburn, in recent history, has a very poor track record at recruiting tackle. As a matter of fact, people bemoan this under Gus. It was like, when are we going to get a tackle from high school that's highly rated into a place like Auburn, where, quite frankly, in the better years where the run game has been amazing, they've not had an issue run blocking. The big uglies, as Cam used to call them, were doing the job up there. Hugh Freeze is looking to return the trenches to such a place where Auburn is healthy along the offensive line. Talk to me about Emmanuel and his visit to the Plains here. I've said it over. I sat down with Coach. We talked about how great they're doing in recruiting. But like I know, what sets the SEC apart from other conferences are offensive and defensive line recruiting. It is better than the other conferences. It has been for a long time. And this could be a key piece for Hugh Freeze moving forward.
Absolutely. Look, offensive line takes a while. You can't just come in, and especially when you're recruiting particular kids, it takes a couple of years of relationships, because think about it. If you every other position, these kids are coming out of high school almost ready-made to go. Offensive line is still one of those true developmental positions for the most part. So it takes a little bit, and I say all that to say they've recruited Manny since they got here. So, they knew about him. This isn't a new development. He's been on the radar ever since he was a freshman or sophomore in high school. So they've been working on this one hard. He came in for junior day and then narrowed his list down, and Auburn wasn't on it. And it was kind of a bummer. You're like, dang, we spent all that time. It didn't work out. The streak continues. The snake being snake bit continues. But then just recently, I don't think Auburn really gave up, and he said, hey, I'm actually going to give Auburn one of the 4 visits, and dropped out. I think Alabama and another school dropped him out completely. So that's big to you get the second visit of his 4. You're in, anytime you can be in a top 4, you feel like you got at least a puncher's chance. And I think Auburn's going to go all out. And, Hugh wants to build from high school. He's talked about it. Well, this would be just another huge stepping stone to continue what's already been laid, a foundation of elite recruiting. This would just set it off to the nth degree to be able to land a kid like this. It'd be huge. He's ready to go. He'd come in, he'd be your guy day one. That would be what they would be expecting him to be for at least 3 years, is to be your starting left tackle.
Kyle, before we started recording, we talked about the investment that goes into these top kids, right?
Yeah.
And I think that one of the easiest parallel I can make for our listeners is if you're a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. Those guys are expected to contribute almost immediately.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, if you're taken in the first or second round of the draft, we've had, former Auburn players gone pro tell us this. The expectation is that you will be a starter or a significant contributor by year 2 if you're taken in the first 2 rounds of the draft. Quite frankly, the investment that goes into those guys is high enough that they expect a return on investment pretty quickly. I think now where NIL is going, the same can probably be said for a tackle taken this high, because if you're taking a tackle this high, similar to the NFL draft, there's probably a significant financial investment tied to his recruitment. That means you expect him not only to contribute, but to stay at your school.
100%. Some of the numbers that were talked about for last year's offensive tackle class, that had guys like Andrew Babalola that Auburn was in,
I remember.
that Auburn was in the running for, guys like David Sanders and Fasusi that I can't remember exactly where he ended up going, Oklahoma or somewhere like that. Like the numbers that were being tossed around for these guys are just astronomical. I mean, you're talking minimum $2 million a year for a true freshman. So it's the numbers are, you nailed it when you compared it to like the top 10 in the NFL draft. Like if you get one of those kids, the financial commitment that you're giving to them is you're expecting them to play right away. Like you can't, there's just not many college teams, I think, out there that can put in that type of investment to sit for a year, year and a half, 2 years. Like that's just massive amount of time, resources that can go elsewhere to build the team, like to bring that in and then them sit. Nah, you gotta have them in there right away. So another thing is you can't miss. You can't miss. If you evaluate this kid and you get him, you can't whiff on him. Like it's got to be a hit, and he's got to play right away, or it's going to be a pretty big setback.
These are pro problems. Look, you can't. I would argue you can miss. It's just not going to be very good for your program if you do, because coaches will now have the pro problem of, do I play this guy simply because I invested a ton of money, or do I sit him and move to the next guy because he might actually be better? I just don't have $2 million invested in him. That money, $2 million for a tackle, that was quarterback money 2 years ago. Now it's tackle money that we're talking about here. Emmanuel Ianacho visits. I don't want to stick with this kid for a second. I appreciate you breaking this down for our listeners here. He's uncommitted, obviously, but he's getting he is the second in the class of 2026 as it stands right now per On 3. So he would be what I would term as a can't miss prospect,
Sure.
Right? Like somebody who you absolutely cannot miss on if you're going to be spending that. It's not a draft pick, but the type of money you're going to be spending on him. And then the $20.5 million cap that's supposedly coming with the House settlement. There are some developments there that we'll cover next week. Hopefully we get some resolution. But you've got $18.5 million available to you after the scholarships for the Olympic sports are allocated. Spending $2.5 million on a tackle of your $18 million sounds insane to me.
Sure. And I don't imagine all 2.5 is going to come out of that like collectives are still going to be a thing. Like endorsement deals are still going to be a thing. So I don't think all of it is necessarily going to come out of that quote unquote salary cap. But I think tackles, if you have to justify your endorsement deal now, when they have to go, once the new ruling comes through and you have to go justify it through arbitration, I think you just look at the NFL, like what are the most highest paid players in the NFL? It's like quarterbacks, left tackles, and pass rushers. So the premium is there to justify, in my opinion, any type of endorsement deal. So like I wouldn't even necessarily worry about that number counting against the cap. Like they'll make it work for those type of guys.
Yeah,
it's still a huge investment.
Just insane where we're at here in college sports. You and I are going to be having, I think, tons of conversations for the rest of the year about what Auburn spent and where and why. But I don't think there's a bad dollar spent trying to improve your offensive line. I think every dollar spent trying to improve offensive line is one that is well spent. And you've got to shore it up. Now, we talked about Hugh Freeze stacking the deck around Jackson Arnold and potentially Deuce Knight in the future. And this is part of that process. This guy could be blocking for Deuce Knight in 2 years.
Sure.
Right? Sure. And I know Deuce is a lefty, but certainly every big body you have up there protecting the quarterback is going to play an important role here, so that you do not need game breakers at quarterback to have a good season, right? And I think it's really what Hugh is trying to focus on. He's saying, look, I can go out and find a solid tackle easier than I can go find the next Cam Newton. So let me go find as many Emmanuel Ianachos as I can possibly find. And hopefully we're more of a well-rounded team than a one-hit wonder, depending on a once-in-a-lifetime superstar. I think it's a better route to building a program if you're Hugh Freeze in Auburn. But look, how does that offensive line project? Guys like Emmanuel Ianacho are going to play a very important role in what Hugh Freeze is trying to build. What are their other needs? We'll talk about that right after a quick words from our friends at the Vibe Vault. If you're in the Columbus, Phoenix City area and you're looking to get fresh for the weekend, visit our friends at the Vibe Vault. Not just barbers, lifestyle consultants. You can find them at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Sweet Eye in Phoenix City, Alabama. That's on Highway 431, right across the street from Chattahoochee Valley Community College and next to the Renfro Supermarket and Marco's Pizza. The Vibe Vault, helping keep the community fresh. Also, visit our friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com. Use code RAPPORT to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. Visit them, please. Our guy Richard dropping a little something special in there for everybody using code Rapport. And our friends at Golden's Cast Iron. Visit goldenscastiron.com. Use code DWR for $65 off fire pits and Kamala grills, and code get your weight up for 15% off your weights. Golden's Cast Iron, workout, grill out, chill out with our friends at Golden's Cast Iron. Let's jump back in here.
I hope I was muted there.
They heard you, Steve. It's okay.
I was trying to find the button. I was trying to find it so hard. I was in a panic and I couldn't hold it. I'm sorry.
I think the Rogue Shop has something for allergies as well, too.
Yeah. Let me hit that.
Look, Emmanuel Ianacho, I'm sure that you'll report to the good folks on the barn about how his visit goes. Remind me again, what is his visit date?
He visits June 6th, which is his second of 4 visits. And he pretty much said Auburn's sitting 4th right now. It's Oregon, LSU, Penn State, and us. So you get the second crack at him of 4 visits to really make an impact. Oregon's probably the consensus leader right now, so it's a big shoes. That's a big one to try to knock off. Especially, we've been having this conversation about money. That's going to be a big one.
Yeah, we did an episode where we projected Auburn's starting offensive line, anchored by Connor Lew. You got Xavier Chaplin coming in here. Ike seems to think Mason Murphy has a chance to crack the starting lineup there. Jeremiah Wright, Dylan Wade. They project to be a pretty good offensive line. But how do you project this offensive line moving forward? It seems like Auburn is going to have mass turnover at some point after this season, and they're going to need to replace a lot.
Are you talking about this year? How do I project this year's offensive line or after?
After, yeah, next year's.
Well, so you lose Chaplin, you lose Wade, you lose Wright, you lose Murphy, you lose Miller. Okay. And then there's a chance you could lose Connor Lew too. He's getting some NFL draft love. This will be finishes her 3rd year. So you could look at a completely brand new offensive line in 2026 when you're looking to be in year 4, hopefully make a splash if you don't already do it this year. So, I mean, it's who's here at the end of the season, who leaves, and then you got to look at where you stand with some of these high school kids. And then I'm afraid it's probably going to have to be another pretty sizable portal year unless you pull off a guy like Manny here, and he could jump in there and be a plug and play left or right tackle wherever you need him. So massive rebuild. They've got a bunch of young guys in. So could a guy like Tyler Johnson take over at one of the tackle spots, finally get his shot in 2026? I think if he's patient, he's going to get every opportunity. And then, see some of these younger guys again that you've had in the system for a few years. Can they, crack the lineup and be significant SEC players? It's going to be you're starting completely from scratch in 2026.
Who was the kid that we got out of California?
DeAndre Carter.
Yeah. Like, it's funny. He number 1 offensive lineman in California in that recruiting cycle. are there guys that we're looking for that fans may have forgotten about to step up here, like DeAndre Carter?
No, he's definitely one of them, and I think he would be one of your first. That he's one of your first that would be stepping in and hopefully taking over next year. Then you got guys like Ty Buster in this last class, who's honestly at times running. I think they kind of thought he would come in and be a center. I think that's kind of what they thought of him, but he was actually playing some left tackle, like backup left tackle when Deuce was on the field, running a little bit with the two. So that's a big surprise. A guy that I don't want anybody to sleep on is Kale Ellis, who is a kid who reclassified from the 2026 class to the 2025. He's not here yet, but he is a guy who I think as soon as Connor Lew goes pro, this kid plugs in and he's going to be your center for the next 2 or 3 years. He is going to be a really, really good player. I saw he put some film up on his Twitter of him, already working out and like being prepared as best he can, because he's going to be a year behind, a year young, but going to be as physically prepared as he possibly can to get here and contribute early. I say all that to say Auburn's got some really good young offensive linemen in this system. Like they brought in some really good players. I just still think with the mass amount of people that you lose, you're still going to have more than likely going to have to go to the well in the portal again next year.
Yeah, it's going to be an ongoing process going to the portal to fill needs. But as far as the foundation of what you're building, though, you got to continue to build it from high school. This is something Hugh Freeze has said repeatedly since he's been on the Plains. I don't know if he said anything that I agree with more than this. The bedrock of a solid program is still high school recruiting. You've got to get guys in your program from high school. You got to develop them. They've got to learn your system. They have to learn your culture and your ways, and they have to carry that mantle into the next year. The offensive linemen, I don't think people understand, these are some of the smartest guys on the team, Kyle.
Sure.
They have to be able to not only be as more physical than everyone, but they have to think while being the most physical on the team. So guys like Connor Lew, people don't understand, these are guys that are carrying like 4.0 GPAs. They have to be able to think on their feet, and their work is so underappreciated until they're not doing their job. And then fans are like, oh my God, the offensive line is responsible for everything that's wrong in my life. So I like what they're doing here. I like how they're attacking this. I think Auburn has some work to do along the defensive line as well, too. But most of the urgent needs are offensive for Auburn this year and in the coming years. Here, Hugh Freeze seems to be, I think, not just recruiting stars, but addressing needs, which is really important in evaluation.
Yeah, not recruiting off of a paper ranking. We're not just like recruiting off the rankings. He's recruiting off of needs and building, trying to build from the inside out, like most good programs do. And I agree. I think for the most part, I agree 100% that high school is the most ideal. Sometimes though, I wonder about like left tackle. Like honestly, left tackle is to me the only one where I may be like, just because of the astronomical prices to go get like the best of the best out of high school in that gamble. That's like the only one. And we'll see. We have a really good beta test this year. Okay. Because last year you got Percy Lewis out of the portal. He was the number 13 offensive tackle in the portal. Okay. You got Xavian Chaplin this year. He's the number 1. That's a canyon wider than Percy Lewis between caliber of player, more than likely. So you're going to get a really good idea seeing what it's like to go get the number 1 portal offensive tackle out of the transfer portal. And then if you get Manny, if you land that kid, you'll get to immediately see what it's like to go get one of the best high school offensive tackles and plug him in, and you'll get a really good test to see which one was the better value, like right off the bat. And I think that's cool. That's another reason I think this one is a really big bonus. Manny would be a huge bonus and I think he's a very important target. And you kind of want to do everything you can to try to get him.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, they are doing everything they can to get every single recruit during the Hugh Freeze regime. Look,
Sure.
if they've been able to hang their hat on anything, it's been recruiting. And with NIL, I think Hugh has shown that he can adapt to what this is today. Now, he at the end of the day, he wants to recruit on culture and opportunity and system and those things, but he has not ignored the reality that money is a part of the conversation. One of the things he said during our interview that I thought was interesting was, and I agree with, is I said, I don't want to know what they make. I just want to coach them.
Yeah. Don't even get exactly.
I
I'm with
think
you.
most good coaches are there. They don't really care what they make. They just want to coach them. And if money is what it takes to get you in the door, we'll get you in the door. But after you get here, let's talk about football.
Yep.
Emmanuel Ianacho, hopefully you will be an Auburn Tiger here in a few months. But we're Auburn Tigers. There's a couple Auburn Tigers talking Auburn football. Kyle, I want to thank you for joining me. Before we get out of here, tell people where they can find you.
Subscribe to thebarnauburn.com. Get in there. You'll get all the recruiting updates that we can give you. Team news, portal news when that's around. We got great basketball content, baseball content. I just, if you love Auburn sports and you want to have be a part of a good community, you can't beat it. So check us out at thebarnauburn.com.
Definitely can't beat it. The only message board we endorse here at the War Rapport is the Barn. So please go over there and sign up. And if you're in the comments after this video, do us a favor, smash that super thanks button if you want to support the work that we're doing here at the War Rapport. We appreciate you guys. Guys, that's it for another great edition of the Auburn Express, powered by the War Rapport. If you want more content like this, please hit like and subscribe. We are the War Rapport on every social media platform. TW Rapport on TikTok. We're signing off, and as always, War Eagle.